I'd like to talk to you about this concept of making your organization more data-driven. Also going to talk about how the Sage Alerts and Workflow solution fits into that mindset, and how that all relates to your Sage ERP solution, Sage 300. You will note on the title slide here that it does say Sage ERP, doesn't specifically say Sage 300 ERP, because in fact, Alerts and Workflow works with all ERP solutions. So if at some point you happen to move on to a different ERP solution, Alerts and Workflow can move on with you. So without any further ado, let's get right to it. I think the key question when it comes to an organization's concern about being more data-driven is to ask yourself the following question. When was the last time in your daily business activities you felt like saying, if only we had known? If only we had known that a certain customer was so far past due, we would have put them on credit hold. We wouldn't have allowed an additional order to be placed for them. If only we had known about a lease or contract that was about to expire, we would have renewed it. If only we had known that a customer had stopped buying from us or had changed their buying habits, we would have proactively reached out to them. In fact, when we look at most organizations today, the method by which they try to be data-driven is by manually and periodically running and reviewing reports, analyses, etc., off of your ERP data. Reviewing those reports, finding out what's happening that you need to respond to. And unfortunately, that's not data-driven. That's kind of the opposite, because that's your having to go out and look for data that requires your attention. So the idea behind the data-driven organization is to basically take your ERP solution, Sage 300, combine it with Sage Alerts and Workflow, and leave you with a system that automatically monitors itself. I like to use the analogy of, imagine if your Sage 300 system could reach out and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, this requires your attention. And in fact, even go beyond that to take the appropriate response actions itself in response to varying business conditions within your Sage 300 system. That is the concept behind a data-driven organization. So before I talk a little bit more about that, let me give you a little bit of background about the organization that I'm with, Vineyard Soft Corporation, and the technology I'm going to be talking about today, Sage Alerts and Workflow. It's actually officially classified under the heading of a Business Activity Monitoring, or BAM, solution. Yes, yet another acronym in this industry of ours, which is simply rife with them. Sage Alerts and Workflow, developed by my organization, sold by Sage Software. There are over 12,000 organizations worldwide using Alerts and Workflow, which make it the most widely used technology of its kind on the market today. And I want to leave you with one very important statistic from this window. Notice, over 12,000 organizations worldwide, we do all frontline support of this product, and our tech support staff receives just under 9 incoming support requests per day. And what that number really reveals to you is that Alerts and Workflow is a set it and forget it type of application. Most of our clients we don't hear from but once a year when they renew their annual maintenance and support. And I'm a big fan of analogies, and to me the best analogy for Alerts and Workflow is that it's a smoke detector for your business data. You know, we all have smoke detectors in our houses. The concept here is to install some kind of technology within your business that acts like a smoke detector, monitoring conditions in Sage 300 and triggering the appropriate alerts and responses. And at the bottom of the current slide, you can see some awards and commendations that Alerts and Workflow has received over the years. Now, let's give you some scenarios here to think about. I mentioned this phrase of, if only we had known. So on the left-hand side of the current slide are typical business scenarios that most likely you and your colleagues experience. Customers with overdue invoices, clients who have changed their buying habits, leases, contracts about to expire, having a purchase order sitting out there that's waiting to be reviewed and hopefully approved. So what we've got on the left of this slide are all of these business scenarios, or perhaps a better way to put it are business pains. And on the right-hand side, in red, what we have is what alerts and workflow, A and W, can do in response to those conditions. And you'll notice in scenario number 1, if a customer is overdue, let's have alerts and workflow automatically recognize that and automatically resend those past due customers copies of their invoices, maybe even a copy of their statement. Now notice the third example on this slide. If there's a sales order, for example, in Sage 300 with an excessive discount, perhaps we want alerts and workflow to put that sales order on hold pending review. And that's why this technology is not called Sage Alerts, it's called Sage Alerts and Workflow, because it can actually take actions in response to critical time-sensitive business conditions that exist and occur frequently within Sage 300. So let me just very quickly, from a business level perspective, lay out the components of alerts and workflow. First of all, it monitors your Sage 300 application for any business conditions that are important to you. And that last statement bears repeating, any business conditions. Obviously, dates that are upcoming or past, such as an invoice's due date. Thresholds, such as stock approaching or reaching its reorder level. Clients who've used up more than 90% of their credit limit. Number 3, inactivity monitoring. I'd like to say that sometimes the most important business conditions that you need to monitor aren't something that has happened, but rather something that should have happened, but hasn't. A frequent buying customer who now has not purchased within the last month, or an item in inventory that has not moved within the last X days. Exception management, checking for data integrity, inconsistencies, trend analysis. This is a great use for alerts and workflow. Again, I used the example earlier of identifying a customer who's changed their buying habits. How nice would it be for an account manager or salesperson to come into work on the first day of the month and have waiting for them an email that says, these customers of yours have changed their buying habits. They're buying a lot more or a lot less than they used to. And then finally, simply looking for changes. If you ever thought to yourself, gee, I really would have liked to have known when someone changed this customer's credit limit or credit status, or when the cost of this item from one of our suppliers went up by more than 20%. Now, although we are talking today about alerts and workflow relative to Sage 300, I do want to mention that this is an enterprise-wide alerts and workflow solution. So you probably have other software applications within your business, a CRM or sales app, customer service app, human resources app. Alerts and workflow can monitor the data in those applications as well as in Sage 300. Alerts and workflow does have the optional ability to monitor the content of incoming email. So if your organization has generic email accounts like info@ or sales@yourcompany.com, alerts and workflow can monitor that. And then also alerts and workflow can identify conditions between Sage 300 and any other business applications you're using. For example, let's say that you're using Sage CRM. You might say, I really need to know when a new sales opportunity is entered in Sage CRM for a client who has overdue invoices in Sage 300, or is on credit hold in Sage 300, or doesn't have sufficient credit available in Sage 300. So cross-application monitoring, part of what alerts and workflow can do. Now, alerts and workflow can optionally monitor your operating system, and when it sends alerts, the system can optionally require that your alert recipients acknowledge receipt of those notifications. It's good to tell someone about something that's happening that requires their attention, but it's even better to know that that person has received the alert and what action they're going to take in response to it. Now, I've mentioned alerts a number of times, so the obvious next question is, well, how can those alerts be sent out? Via virtually any device and any delivery means, whether it's email, texting to a cell phone, screen pop messages, faxing for any organizations that are still using fax machines. All of these alert delivery methods are part of alerts and workflow. We often get asked, what email systems does alerts and workflow work with? Easy answer, all of them. Outlook or hosted Exchange, SMTP, hosted mail systems like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, all supported. But I've highlighted a couple of alert delivery methods in red here because they often fly under the radar. Charting, graphical alerts. You know, sometimes a picture really is worth 1,000 words. If we're going to notify a salesperson that one of their customers has changed their buying habits, how about sending that account manager a nice looking bar chart or line chart that actually tracks that customer's orders on a monthly basis over the last 3, 6, 9, or 12 months? And then dashboard alerts. Most people today receive the majority of their alerts via email. I don't know about you, but I receive more emails every day than I wish to. And so sometimes getting to the email that I really need to see can take a little while. Have to open email, have to wade through my spam, have to find the appropriate email message that is intended for me. Alert dashboards are dynamic web pages that are automatically updated with critical alert details. So if someone down in shipping wants to have a window up that says, here are all the orders that need to be shipped today. If someone up in finance wants a dynamic window up showing just those customers who have invoices that are more than 90 days past due, they can have those alert dashboards as well. Now, when we talk about alerts, sometimes an alert is more than just a simple reminder message. It might be sending a customer a copy of an overdue invoice. It might be sending an account manager an AR aging report for a client who's very past due. In fact, with alerts and workflow, it can generate forms, documents, and reports in a number of different ways. From scheduled reports, like an hourly stock status report or a weekly AR aging report, to triggered reports, reports that get generated and delivered only when the corresponding business conditions warrant it, to document delivery, graphic alerts, and even allowing your own staff, your users, to automatically request and receive reports via email. We call that reports on demand. Which brings us to the final component in alerts and workflow, the workflow part of the solution. And that is where alerts and workflow can go back into Sage 300 and actually add or update records. If a client is severely past due, let's have alerts and workflow recognize that and put that client on credit hold. If a client gets put on credit hold, we might want alerts and workflow to take some details about that client's financial status and actually move it over to a CRM application and schedule a phone call within that CRM app for the corresponding sales rep to make to that client. So whether it's for adding or updating information in Sage 300 or in other applications, this workflow component of alerts and workflow is quite handy. So before I show you the application itself, let's talk about how the solution is licensed and priced. Alerts and workflow is not priced per user. Doesn't matter how many Sage 300 users you have. Instead, alerts and workflow is licensed in two ways. Number one, according to the number of applications you wish it to monitor, and number two, according to the functionality that you need. Let's start off up at the top of this slide. Let's say that you want to monitor Sage 300 for an unlimited number of conditions. Now you'll notice that I use the phrase monitoring one application, because if you have multiple companies in Sage 300, you've got multiple databases, that doesn't matter. It's still monitoring just one application, Sage 300, all modules, AR, AP, inventory, GL, etc. For unlimited conditions, by the way, alerts and workflow comes pre-configured with roughly 60 pre-configured events for use with Sage 300. And you can use all of those, customize them, and create additional events of your own. To monitor for unlimited conditions, notify as many people as you wish, your staff, your clients, your prospects, your suppliers and vendors, etc., and to deliver those alerts via any communications method, email, fax, text message, web dashboard. You're looking at a one-time license price of just under $1,800 To that would be added roughly 20% for annual maintenance and support. Now, please note this is what we would refer to as a perpetual license cost. We do also offer subscription licensing or licensing, excuse me, and pricing on a monthly subscription basis. Which bring me to the modules, the options down at the bottom. If you wish to utilize alerts and workflow to generate reports, forms, documents, graphic alerts, etc., we put that all into what's referred to as the reports module, and that module itself is a one-time cost of just under $1,000. That's a very popular option. About 65 to 75% of all of our clients opt for that reports module. The workflow actions module, the ability to trigger updates back into Sage CRM, such as putting a past due customer on hold, or perhaps moving data from Sage 300 to any other applications. That workflow actions module, also a one-time cost of just under $1,000. It's worth noting that if at your time of initial purchase you decide to purchase both of those two modules together, you do get a $500 price break, so they can both be had for $1,500. And your only other option is to decide whether or not you wish to use alerts and workflow to monitor other business applications that your organization is using, like a CRM app, an HR app, or perhaps even one or more homegrown applications. For each additional application to be monitored, it's an additional $17.99. Once you hit 4 applications being monitored, we automatically grant you what's called the unlimited connection license, enabling you to use alerts and workflow to monitor every single business application that you own today or ever will own, and that includes monitoring incoming email as well as your operating system. A couple of years ago, we did an ROI, return on investment study. We interviewed roughly 1,100 customers, got statistics on their use of alerts and workflow, compared that with how much they had spent on the solution, and it turned out that the average payback period, the amount of time it took for a client to completely pay off their investment in alerts and workflow, was just under 3 months at 88 days. So with that, I'd like to show you the solution. So we'll jump out of this PowerPoint and we'll jump into Sage Alerts and Workflow. Now, a couple of words in general about the Alerts and Workflow technology. Number one, it's a server-based application. That means it's typically installed on just one machine within your organization's IT environment. It does not need a dedicated server. You could put it on your Sage 300 server, on your SQL Server box, on your Exchange server, or even run it on a workstation, which is what I'm demoing it to you from today. Alerts and Workflow runs under any Windows-based operating system, so that makes that a very short conversation. And like Sage 300, Alerts and Workflow stores its data in a Microsoft SQL Server database. Now, the way Alerts and Workflow operates is that you tell it what types of business conditions you want it to look for. And by the way, the list that you're seeing right now is just part of the pre-configured conditions that come with Alerts and Workflow. You tell it how often to watch for those conditions and what to do if and when those conditions arise. You turn it on and walk away from it. It runs as a Windows service in a completely lights out processing environment. Okay, so let's take a look at a single event. And I've mentioned monitoring receivables a few times, looking at invoices that are coming due, that are overdue, etc. Let's take a look at an event that sends an alert about AR invoices that are coming due for payment within the next 7 days. Now, each event, as we call it, consists of up to 5 components. The first component is telling us whether or not this event is currently active and how often are we checking for its conditions. Some conditions, like monitoring stock, might need to be done very frequently, like checking every hour, every half an hour, every 5 minutes, or even continuously. Other conditions, like looking for invoices that are coming due, probably once a day is sufficient. And in fact, this event is running every day at 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll notice that something called repeat is turned on. That means that when this event ran this morning at 9 a.m. and sent out alerts about invoices that were coming due, tomorrow at 9 a.m. when it runs again. If some of those same invoices are still unpaid, Alerts and Workflow will send out another or repeat round of alerts. The condition that we're looking for here is invoices that are coming due within a certain number of days. What is the triggering threshold for this event? It's 7. Want to change that? Want to trigger on 14 days, 3 days, 1 day? Easily enough, if you are so authorized, you can come into this event, change the triggering threshold from 7 days to whatever is the appropriate threshold for your organization. Note that these queries that we're looking at here can be easily modified by you. You do not need to be a programmer. You're not writing any kind of SQL syntax or scripting language. The entire query itself is wizard-driven. So for example, if you wish to exclude certain customers from this logic, etc., easy to do so through a wizard-driven interface. Let's move ahead to look at what this event is going to do if and when it finds that there are, in fact, invoices that are coming due within the next 7 days. First and foremost, we want to tell someone about it. We're going to trigger alerts. Now, most events might not trigger alerts via all of these different delivery methods. I have configured this event to send out alerts via a bunch of different methods just to show you the variety that's available to you in Alerts and Workflow. Whether via email, fax, instant message, web dashboard, the alert messages are here. If you wish to edit any of those messages, simply a matter of choosing the edit option. If you are so authorized, you'll be brought into that alert message in edit mode. Here we are looking at the instant message that gets generated when this condition proves true. We're sending an alert that says the invoice number and the amount of a certain dollar amount is due on a certain date. Now, perhaps we want to add the invoice date to this alert message. So let's just go in, excuse me, and let's say dated, and let's look for our invoice date field, which I think is called date invoice. There it is right here. Let's add this to our text, and we'll just insert a blank space. So we now have invoice with its date as part of this alert message. Now, if we take a look, for example, at the email alert message that's generated, we've made that a little fancier. We're using HTML syntax here to create a nice looking table in an alert message, which of course brings up the question, do you need to know how to write HTML syntax yourself in order to create these nice looking email alert messages? Answer, no. Alerts and Workflow comes with a library of HTML templates that you can choose from. You don't need to know any HTML syntax whatsoever, as you're simply dropping in the fields of data from Sage 300 that you want to appear within your alert message. Now, if we look over on the left-hand side here, we can see that this event is automatically regenerating the invoice for those invoices that are coming due. The invoice here is being generated in PDF format. That's good. We're even generating a chart that actually shows me my invoice total per sales rep. So if we take a quick look at that chart, this is designed to be a bar chart. You have complete control over the type of chart you want to generate. Let's take a look at this chart and see what it's telling us. And in this case, we've got a chart that is showing us the total due per sales rep as of today's date. And I can see I've got 2 reps who have a whole lot of invoices that are coming due within the next 7 days. Charts like this, they can be embedded within an email, they can be attached to an email, they can be posted to a website, whatever is your preference. So let's go back to the event. And now that we've identified the content that we might wish to deliver to customers, to sales reps, etc., let's now specify whom those recipients or subscribers to these alerts are. This event has 4 subscribers. We're notifying everyone in our finance group, and we're notifying them via 2 delivery methods, both email and instant message. I love that because I love getting that pop-up right in front of me that tells me I have something that requires my attention. Then, of course, the email gives me access to more details about the condition that's occurred. In addition to my finance group, I'm also notifying myself, in my case, just via email. By the way, these groups and individuals are, of course, definable by you. And since you already have in Sage 300 a list of customers and their email addresses, you don't have to re-enter them or import them into Alerts and Workflow. Alerts and Workflow will read that data right out of Sage 300. If you think about this particular event, however, we're looking at invoices that are coming due within a certain number of days. The two most important people for me to notify are, in fact, the customer and the customer's salesperson. And so you'll notice these final two subscribers to this event are referred to as dynamic subscribers because naturally they're going to vary based upon which invoices are coming due. I often get asked, yeah, I have 20 sales reps. Do I need to set up a separate event for each sales rep? Absolutely not. One event will automatically notify and provide the appropriate content to each salesperson and each customer. Which brings us to the last component of this event. It's actions, workflow actions. Do I want alerts and workflow to perhaps go into Sage CRM and create a scheduled activity? Do I want alerts and workflow to go into Sage 300 itself and actually add or update information? This branch of an event is covered under an additional layer of security, because when it comes to writing data back into an application or moving data from one application to another, we need to be absolutely sure that only the appropriately knowledgeable and authorized people have access to this function. So not only must a person be authorized for access to Sage Alerts and Workflow, they must be specially authorized for access to this tab. The workflow actions are a combination of some programmatic APIs and some wizard-driven APIs. So different options for people with different levels of technical expertise. Now, before we open up these lines for Q&A, I just want to show you a couple kind of what I consider fun aspects of alerts and workflow. You'll notice up at the top here that we've got other branches. We've got a branch called ERP Dashboards. This just creates these dynamic web pages showing whatever information is important to your organization, like I said, dynamically updated by alerts and workflow, such as looking at items that have dropped below their reorder level, purchase order line items that are on back order, etc. A little bit beneath that, we've got a branch called Sage 300 and Sage CRM. This is the ability for alerts and workflow to look at conditions between those two applications, such as, for example, we have here a credit hold mismatch. If a client is on credit hold in Sage 300 but not on credit hold in Sage CRM, that's a problem. That's a discrepancy that we need to tell someone about. If we drop down to the bottom of this list, we come to one of my favorite events, a new support case that's been created in Sage CRM for a client who's on credit hold in ERP. Guess what? Our support rep is going to say to this client, I'd like to help you, but I can't help you until you resolve this credit hold situation. So again, monitoring conditions between multiple applications. But perhaps my favorite events of all are these automated trend analysis events. I'm going to show you just one. Let's take a look at this third trend analysis event. This is an event that automatically runs on the first day of every month. And what does this event do? Let me take you through it. On the first day of every month, the first thing that this event does is it looks to see what each customer purchased over the month just ended. This event then goes 6 months back for each customer to see what they purchased over that 6-month period. And this event then divides that total by 6 to get a monthly average per customer. And then finally, this event does a comparison for each customer, comparing what they purchased for the month just ended versus their average monthly sales based upon that rolling 6 months of activities. And if it turns out that a customer's sales for the month just ended is a drop of at least 30% versus the customer's average month, what are we going to do? We're going to send an email alert message to the corresponding sales rep. And in this case, not even a fancy email, just plain text saying, hello, salesperson. This customer of yours has placed orders for the previous month to date that represents a decrease of at least 30% over their average month. We're showing just 4 very meaningful fields of data. For that customer, their previous last month orders their average monthly orders based upon the preceding 6 months of activity, and the dollar decrease as well as the percentage decrease. How nice would it be for a sales rep to have this information waiting for them when they sit down at their desk first thing in the morning on the first day of a month? Okay. So let me just pop back into our PowerPoint here. I believe we have one more slide, so let's put that up in front of you. So for more information about alerts and workflow, we suggest that you visit the website, alertsandworkflow.com, the address up at the top of this page. From there, you can try out the Alerts and Workflow solution. It is the live shipping software. It comes with a free 30-day license, so you can use it. If you have any questions, you can contact our tech support department, and that site also gives you access to the product documentation, manual, and video training library. You may, if you decide to move ahead with Alerts and Workflow, always contact us directly for tech support, but everything is always coordinated through your Sage business partner, Melanie, and her colleagues. So that way everything is consolidated, one point of contact, maintenance and support is all coordinated, centralized, and handled through Melanie and of course through Sage software as well. Now I do want to finish by taking you out to the Sage Alerts and Workflow website, because I just would like to draw your attention to one item in the middle of this page. You can see some text that reads, does your organization need alerts and workflow? Click here to find out. This will actually bring you to an automated alerts and workflow needs assessment. This will actually walk you through a series of questions about your current Sage 300 installation, asking you questions about alerts, about reports, about trend analysis, about all different parts of your business. And when you're done with this needs assessment, it'll automatically generate a report card for you, showing you what parts of your organization could benefit from alerts and workflow, and just how much need your organization has for a technology like alerts and workflow. So I very much encourage you to go through that tool at your convenience.
Don, I have a question. One of the things you say over here is that one of the ways that you do alerts is through instant message. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, there actually are a couple different ways. So, it's funny, instant message used to be a very specific technology, and now it ranges everything from simply popping up a dialog box or a message box right on someone's computer system. So if you're familiar with technologies like a Skype technology or Microsoft Messenger, that's what we mean by IM. But by the same token, today, a lot of folks think of IM as simply a text message to their cell phone. Mm-hmm. And in truth, what we're seeing is more and more when we're talking instant messages, really what folks are looking to get is that text message on their mobile device. So that's the most common form in which instant messages are being delivered these days.
So, like, if they were using Skype for Business or Microsoft Teams, would you be able to send them alerts on that?
We would. Okay. I'm going to put a little verbal asterisk after that phrase, because I know that as those technologies change, as they're developed, as new versions come out, we often have to upgrade alerts and workflow to keep up with their latest versions. Mm-hmm. So I always recommend that you touch base with our tech support team to find out which IM technologies are currently supported. Mm-hmm. We're actually between versions 9 and version 10 of alerts and workflow. Version 10 will be released in mid-2018. So I know I've seen over the years there have been times when, for example, Skype changes their version, and we have to undergo some amount of time during which we don't support Skype until we've basically done the development and testing to support Skype's latest version. But yes, that is indeed exactly what I'm talking about in terms of supported technologies. And I just wanted to show, while I have the alerts and workflow website up, once again, a couple things in terms of the information you have available here. You can actually drill down into the Buy Sage product tab and go down to Sage 300 ERP. You may have heard me mention that the system comes with roughly 60 pre-configured business conditions that it will monitor for. You might wonder, well, I wonder what are those 60 conditions? You can come right into this page and a button over on the right-hand side called List of Included Events that will generate that list for you. You can also come to the Download tab here to download the Live Alerts and Workflow solution. Like I said, that comes with the 30-day license code, and you have full and free access to our tech support if you need any assistance during the time of your evaluation of the Alerts and Workflow solution. And then on the Documentation tab, additional information available here. I also mentioned during the PowerPoint an ROI, Return on Investment Calculator. That is available here, so you can plug in your own numbers and see how quickly you could realize your return on investment for alerts and workflow. And over on the right-hand side, under videos, there are a number of videos, a more detailed product walkthrough if you wish to look at that or share that with some of your colleagues. And down at the bottom of that videos list, you'll see a link to what's called our training videos. These will link you back to our own website, vineyardsoft.com, and bring you to our library of training videos. Please note that if you do decide to take a look at some of these training videos, they will all be branded using the Knowledge Sync name. Knowledge Sync is simply our name for the Alerts and Workflow solution. So whether it's called Knowledge Sync or whether it's called Sage Alerts and Workflow, they are the same solution. So let me just go down to our training video library because I wanted to show you that. Here we go. A number of courses available for your review and use. Don't be alarmed by the number of courses. Each course is very short, very focused, averages about 10 to 12 minutes in duration. All right, Melanie, back to you.
Thank you, Don. Don, I had a question about the dashboards. So you said that you have 60 different pre-configured conditions that you can send alerts on. Would those apply to the dashboards as well?
Yes, but I'm going to put, again, a verbal asterisk. Thank you for asking the question. Out of the box for Sage 300, Alerts and Workflow ships with actually about 12.5 pre-configured dashboards, specifically dashboards. Then there are an additional 60 business conditions that are pre-configured in the system. Those 60 pre-configured conditions do not have dashboards linked to them, but it's a matter of between 5 and 10 minutes worth of work if you want any of those additional 60 events to also trigger dashboards. So 18 dashboards come with the product, an additional 60 business conditions that can optionally be enhanced through just, again, 5 to 10 minutes worth of event design work to also create their output in a dashboard format. And by the way, dashboards really are a fun alert delivery method. They happen to be one of my favorite, again, because they are posted to a website, they are dynamically updated. If you visit our website and go to the documentation page, what you'll see amongst the manual and the training videos is something called the Dashboard Setup Kit. And it is a zip file that contains templates, examples, a Microsoft Word short manual on setting up dashboards, but also a PowerPoint training course that you can literally walk through in just a matter of a couple of minutes and see the steps that need to be gone through in order to configure a dashboard. So if you're particularly curious about this delivery method, search out that Dashboard Setup Kit, download it, take a look at the PowerPoint that's inside it, and that'll give you a good idea for how those dashboards operate and what you need to do in order to configure them.